Are you thinking about moving to Moorhead, Minnesota, but you're just not really sure what life is actually like there? What are the good things about living in Moorhead compared to Fargo? What about the bad things living in Moorhead compared to Fargo or compared to the rest of the state of Minnesota? Well, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm breaking down all the pros and cons of living in Moorhead, Minnesota, so you can make a decision of whether you want to move there or live there or not. Now, thanks for coming to the channel. I'm Sykora, a real estate agent here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Having lived in both Moorhead, Fargo, and being someone who's relocated here myself, I know a lot about the area, and I make these videos to help people and give them information on what life is truly like here in Fargo-Moorhead. If you're interested in making a move to, from, in, or around this Fargo-Moorhead region, you can schedule a call with me through the link in the description below, or reach out to my phone number on the screen now. So let's jump right into all the pros and cons of living in Moorhead, Minnesota, with the number one pro straight out the gate, which is the affordable housing prices in Moorhead, Minnesota, especially compared to Fargo, especially compared to the rest of the state of Minnesota. The median price of a home in Moorhead is around $270,000 to $280,000. Now you compare that to Fargo, where the median price of a home is around $350,000 to $360,000, and you compare that to the rest of the state of Minnesota as a whole, where the median price is around $360,000 to $370,000. So Moorhead being $270,000 a median price, the houses in Moorhead, they're still good quality, they're still big houses, it's just they're more affordable being in Moorhead. So that's a big thing about Moorhead, is how affordable the houses are, how great they are to live in, and how much farther your dollar is going to go in Moorhead compared to Fargo. Because if you think about it, the same exact house in Moorhead and Fargo are going to be different prices, with the Moorhead one being more affordable than the Fargo one. So your dollar can go a little bit farther in Moorhead compared to Fargo. But the thing with this is, heading right into our first con, is the income tax difference in the states of Minnesota and North Dakota. So Fargo-Moorhead, this metro of around 250,000 people here on the North Dakota and Minnesota border, split right down the middle by the Red River. Obviously Minnesota, the state of Minnesota, and the state of North Dakota are really different in a lot of different ways. In politics, in taxes, and that sort of thing. So that's something you need to know about. That the taxes in Minnesota are going to be higher. The income tax, the lowest bracket is over 3% in Minnesota, when the highest bracket in North Dakota for income tax is under 3%. So the income taxes in Moorhead and in Minnesota are going to be a lot higher than on the Fargo side, which probably contributes to the fact of why home prices in Moorhead are a little bit more affordable, to be able to even that out. Because if you're paying more taxes, but your house is less expensive, compared to your house being more expensive, paying less taxes. So it really all depends on your own personal situation and what you want to do. The rents here in Fargo-Moorhead, they're very similar on both sides of the river, no matter what side you live on. So that's something to consider when you're moving to this Fargo-Moorhead region, to know the pros and cons of living in Moorhead, Minnesota. Another pro about living in Moorhead is the great education system in Moorhead. There's 3 different colleges just in Moorhead, and Moorhead has a population of around 45,000 people. You have Concordia, MSUM, and you have M-State. So there's 3 colleges right here in Moorhead. So it's a college town. So all the things that come with being a college town. So you have Moorhead High School as the main public school. Then you also have Park Christian, which is a private school. So those are the 2 main kind of secondary school systems up to the colleges here in Moorhead, Minnesota. But there's a ton of people that just stay in Moorhead and stay in the schools here because they like the area, because they're happy with the school systems. And the thing is, just starting next year, MSUM has a deal with Moorhead High School where if you're over a 3.0 GPA and you go to Moorhead High School, free tuition to MSUM. So that's a great thing that Moorhead residents get, that Fargo residents don't get, that Minneapolis residents don't get. That sort of thing is that they get free tuition to MSUM, people who go to Moorhead High School, and have over that 3.0 GPA. Now that's the only requirement for that. To be able to get free tuition, go to college in your hometown, and not start off in a lot of debt from going to college like a lot of people do. That's a major pro of living in Moorhead, Minnesota, is the great school systems. Now I'll kind of just keep going back and forth between pros and cons of living in Moorhead. And the next con, which I have, is the limited nightlife and the limited amenities in Moorhead, Minnesota. So Moorhead is not huge. They are doing a downtown project right now, but it's not completed yet. Fargo is where you need to go for the downtown. And Fargo is where all the bunch of food places are, where all the amenities are. There's some in Moorhead, there's some in Dilworth, but your real amenities and the real places to go are in Fargo. So the nice thing is, it's only a 10-15 minute drive depending on where you live in Moorhead, but also you just gotta travel that 10-15 minutes to get to that nightlife, to get to that amenities, and to get that sort of thing here in Fargo compared to Moorhead. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that Moorhead doesn't have a ton of amenities, which can also be a good thing. If someone's looking for that small town feel in Moorhead and they want to be close to all the amenities that are in Fargo but still have that small Midwest town feel, that could be a great opportunity to go to Moorhead and to live in Moorhead. Now, if you're thinking of making a move to, from, in, or around Fargo, Moorhead, or anywhere in this state of North Dakota, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Zach, a real estate agent on the Living in Fargo-Moorhead team, and we've helped countless people buy and sell homes here in the area. Now, the next con about living in Moorhead, maybe you see my pros and cons video about Fargo or about Horace, about other towns in this Fargo-Moorhead area. They still have winter in Moorhead. I say it in all my pros and cons video because that's the biggest con everybody always thinks of when they're relocating here to Moorhead, Minnesota or Fargo, North Dakota. It's the winters. Yeah, the winters aren't great. There's a lot of snow. It gets cold. It gets really windy and the wind chills get super low. But that's something you have to deal with living here in Moorhead, Minnesota, that it's going to be snow. You're going to have to shovel the driveway in the winters. It's something you have to deal with, and it's going to be cold. A lot of times people go down south for the winters, snowbirds, but a lot of times people just stay here because this is where their family, this is where their friends are, this is where the community is here in Moorhead, Minnesota. So they'll choose to stay in Moorhead compared to moving to somewhere else where maybe the winter isn't as bad, but the pros outweigh the cons for the people who do live in Moorhead to deal with the winter here in Moorhead, Minnesota. The next pro about living in Moorhead, Minnesota is all the parks and public amenities there are to people here in Moorhead. So you'll drive throughout Moorhead. There's a ton of parks all over the place, a ton of walking paths, a ton of outdoor activities like that to do all over. And the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's a summer or winter like I talked about earlier, where even during the winters, a lot of these parks will have ice rinks set up so people and kids can go out and ice skate and go play hockey. Because Moorhead's really, really passionate about hockey. They just won the hockey state tournament actually this year, upsetting some teams. But that's what a lot of people are passionate about here in Moorhead, Minnesota, is hockey and other sports. So that is a big thing about Moorhead, the great parks, great outdoor activities, and great areas just to be outside and enjoy the weather when it is nice out during the summers, or to get people outside during the winters to go out and play some hockey here in the parks in Moorhead, Minnesota. And of course with that, there's a lot of stuff along the river to do, kayaking, ton of walking trails, that sort of thing all around the river, the Red River splitting North Dakota and Minnesota. Then Moorhead is also really close to the lakes region in Minnesota. That's one thing that's very, very popular here in this Fargo-Moorhead area, especially during the summers. People go out to the lakes on the weekend, enjoy the lake, go out on the lake, and enjoy all the lake has to offer. Yet you're still close to your house in Moorhead, Minnesota here, being the lakes region is 20, 30, 40 minutes away, depending on what lake you are on here in Moorhead, Minnesota. Now the next con of living in Moorhead, Minnesota is the limited public transportation. Moorhead is a bigger city, but not big enough to have a huge public transportation system. They do have buses that go around or bikes, but that's kind of it for public transportation. And you have a lot of people who will need to drive to Fargo for work because they'll work in Fargo or they'll work in West Fargo or Central Fargo. Just being Moorhead doesn't have a ton of jobs compared to Fargo. That's a nice thing, that the commute times, they're relatively low, especially when you compare it to big cities like Minneapolis or Chicago or New York. Obviously, Fargo and Moorhead don't have nearly as many people as those cities do. The commute time is really low. Even if you're driving from Moorhead over to Fargo, over to West Fargo, your commute time is relatively low because you can just get right on the interstate and just take it right over here to Fargo or to West Fargo. Could consider a pro, could consider it a con. You're right next to Fargo. So all the amenities Fargo has, all the things Fargo has, all the jobs Fargo has, all the pros Fargo has, you're right here in Moorhead. So you're right next to it. You just have to cross the Red River and cross a bridge to get over into Fargo. But you're also separate from Fargo. So you're kind of your own little small town community. You have good Midwest feel, Minnesota nice, as they say. And you're right here close to Fargo, yet you're still in Minnesota and you're still in Moorhead, in a relatively smaller town compared to Fargo. Now, a couple other things you just need to know about living in Moorhead and living in Minnesota compared to Fargo. I'm not necessarily saying these are pros or cons. I'm just here to give you the information on these certain facts. Is the fact that recreational marijuana is legal in Moorhead and in Minnesota and is not legal in North Dakota and in Fargo. So that's one thing to consider if that is something you are interested in, that recreational marijuana is legal in Moorhead but is illegal in Fargo. Now, there is currently not a dispensary in Moorhead for marijuana as this video is being put out, but there is word of one and works of one, so I'm not sure when the actual date of that being actually able to go and buy marijuana and recreational marijuana will be, but it is in the works, and I'm not sure when that actually will be done. But the thing you need to know is that just recreational marijuana is legal on the Moorhead side and is illegal on the Fargo side. Now, another thing you need to consider, I'm not saying this is a pro or con, that Moorhead and Minnesota are generally a blue state, and Fargo and North Dakota are generally a red state. Of course, there's differences with this, with how the government is run, the different policies, things like that. So that's something you need to consider when you're moving to Fargo or to Moorhead and choosing the pros and cons of each city. But I'm not here to tell you that's a pro or a con. I'm just here to give the information for you based on that. I gave a lot of pros and cons in this video of living in Moorhead, Minnesota. And if you're interested in moving to, from, in, or around this Fargo-Moorhead region, you can reach out to me. I'm Sykora, your redheaded real estate agent with Living in Fargo-Moorhead team. We've helped countless people move all over this region, and we'd be happy to help you next. You can reach out to us by scheduling a call through the link in the description below or shooting me a text.